I am Dr. Nicanor G. TIongson, Professor Emeritus of the College of Mass Communication at the University of the Philippines in Diliman, and former Artistic Director and Vice President of the Cultural Center of the Philippines in 1986 to 1994. Today's Cultural Cache Online will focus on an artwork by Roberto Villanueva called Pitong Sining. It's a large mural that hangs on permanent display on the wall beside the grand staircase at the CCP, connecting the main theater lobby to the little theater lobby. In 1990, the CCP was invited by the Baguio Arts Guild to the Baguio Arts Festival because the CCP had always been a sponsor of this festival. As Artistic Director, I went and represented CCP. So when I got off the vehicle, I saw this huge mural that completely overwhelmed me. For the next 2 days, I saw about 100 or so artworks during the festival, but this mural made a lasting impression on me. Even then, I already decided that this mural should be acquired by the CCP. I had already imagined it hanging on the wall where it actually hangs now. That particular corner of the staircase had always been dark. I thought a beautiful artwork hanging there, properly lighted, would certainly liven up the staircase and make that space more meaningful. As soon as I got the go signal from Mrs. Rojas and Ren Garcia, I talked to Roberto Villanueva, and he was only too happy actually to sell the artwork to CCP. And I think he must have looked on it as a kind of honor because he gave it for such a reasonable price. In this artwork, the artist seems to be communicating to us a very important insight into our existence as human beings, and that is that the same life force expresses itself in the process of procreation, in the process of artistic creation, and in man's productive and respectful relationship with nature. The eye is first attracted to the center of the rectangle, to a circle formed in sequence by 3 lizards, a male, a female, and a child lizard, with each one biting the tip of the tail of the one in front of it. As the 3 move in a circle, they seem to be forming a nest for what look like 3 eggs, which actually are the heads and faces seen from the top of a human male, a female, and a child, who are huddled together as a family. Among the Ifugao, the lizard is a symbol of livelihood and prosperity. So the family of lizards going around a family of humans would signify the unending cycle of life lived in prosperity and harmony. The circle of life at center is now enlarged, extended, and enriched by a larger circle of creativity, the creativity of the arts. Emanating from the central image, artistic creativity is depicted in several interconnected vignettes. At the bottom of the frame, a painter on the right corner kneels as he interprets on canvas a tree standing in full bloom with the life-giving sun shining at the center of its crown, representing painting. The same figure holds up a palette with his right hand, pointing to the next vignette, which shows a sitting figure strumming a guitar, while a second figure listens, and a third trains a camera on the guitar player, representing Hispanic music and photography. The listener then connects to the figure of a man carving a portion of the lizard with a chisel and hammer, representing sculpture. Into the ears of the sculptor sings a bird whose song inspires or is echoed by the flute being played by a crouching figure representing indigenous music. At the very top center of the rectangle, another figure listens to the flute player while his hand rests on a crouching figure who is fascinated by a filmmaker representing film at top right corner, who is in turn shooting a figure who is dancing, representing dance and theater. The left arm of the dancer rests on the shoulder of a bigger figure who sits on the ground as it weaves cloth in a traditional loom, representing indigenous weaving. On the cloth that has been woven are scattered at regular intervals various letters of the ancient Tagalog baybayin or alphabet, which seem to have been written on the cloth, now doubling up as bamboo or paper, by a figure at the other end of the loom who is holding a pencil, representing literature. Note that the arts depicted are not only the traditional fine arts introduced from the West, but also the more ancient indigenous arts of native Philippines. Aside from showing how the life force is continuous in both human fertility and artistic creativity, this work also shows us the inextricable relationship between man, art, and nature. The tree, the sun, the clouds, which embody the life force, provide the subject matter for the arts, just as the birds' songs move the flute player to create. The volcano, the mountain, dog, dragonfly, and frogs likewise symbolize the fertility of the earth. The lizard, which was supposed to have been sent by the gods to teach the Ifugao how to water the rice terraces, provides the artist with an important symbol and talisman for productivity. The snake, slithering elegantly under the loom with its head next to the weaver's foot, may be negative in many cultures, but here signifies health, because in the 19th century, a native man was saved from cholera and malaria because of the snake tattooed on his body. Other aesthetic details of the work should also be pointed out, and most visible of all is the indigenous aesthetics which seems to pervade the painting. This is first evidenced in the short, squat figures with wide open eyes, which recall not only the Cordillera Bulol or rice gods, but also and especially the two figures peddling a canoe to the afterlife on the lid of the Manunggul burial jar of Palawan. These aesthetics are also underscored by the dominant color of the painting, which is brown like the Filipino and earthy like the clay of the Manunggul jar. While the figures strike us as indigenous, they are devoid of details that may identify their tribe or their sex. As such, they are meant to be ethnic but not historic, more symbolic than specific. Another characteristic associated with indigenous aesthetics, which can be seen in this painting, is the phenomenon called horror vacui, or the fear of empty spaces. Here, the fear of spaces is actually the result of the overwhelming and overflowing wealth of figures. 15 humans, 10 animals, a tree and a sun, 10 instruments for artistic expression, all expressing in unison the same life force. Perhaps to make us feel the vibrancy, the pulse, the heat, and the flow of this life force, all the above figures are shown interacting and intertwining with each other, perpetually swirling, writhing, gyrating, crouching, kneeling, bending, with arms embracing, gesticulating, playing, and eyes wide open, looking curiously in different directions. Finally, in a nod to the Cordillera region, where the Baguio Arts Guild is based, the figures in the artwork strike us as being indigenous to the Cordillera. And this because the figures are partly formed by lines and dots, while the overall frame of the picture uses geometric forms. All of these recall the designs and motifs traditionally used in Cordillera tattoos. In fact, from afar, the artwork looks more like a huge statue mural than a painting. It is indeed a work so rooted in one culture that it becomes universal. At the time that I attended the Baguio Arts Festival in 1990, the project of Pitong Sining was already underway. So it was pure serendipity that I saw this artwork, which was perfect for the cover because it represented the different arts which are discussed in the essays of the coffee table book, but also because it showed us how the national culture should be formed. That is, not top-down, but from bottom up, with participation from the regions and all Filipino artists. Thank you all for joining us on Cultural Cash Online. Maraming salamat po.